Your Excellency, former Minister of Education of Somalia, distinguished panelists, the Deputy of the UNDP, Vice President of the Somali Chamber of Commerce and Vice President of Hormone, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I'm delighted to be here joining the STEM Summit for this year. Last year, I saw it on TV and also on the internet. But this year, I'm physically here. I'm proud and honored. STEM is quite a new subject, I would say, but at the same time, it's a very important subject. And I would also like to join the previous speakers for thanking the Hano Academy, the STEM Society of Somalia, and also Dr. Sadio for all the contribution and efforts you have made for this country. As I'm representing China here, please allow me to say a few words about China and this relationship. Many people seem to be familiar with China, and there are still many people who do not know much about China. What I would like to say here is that China is not new here, and Somalia is not new to China back in the East Asia. We have been old friends for centuries. In modern times, ever since the independence of Somalia, China and Somalia established the diplomatic relations. And ever since, mutual understanding, mutual respect, and mutual support have been a hallmark of this long-standing relationship. We always remember it was thanks to the support from our Somali brothers and sisters that back in 1971, China was back in the United Nations, together with the support of all other African brothers and sisters. Chairman Mao Zedong once said at the time that it was thanks to the efforts of our African brothers and sisters, it was actually them who actually carried China back to the United Nations. We have always been grateful to this day. That's also why we keep saying that our vote in the United Nations, and particularly in the UN Security Council, belongs to the developing world. As we are talking about STEM today, so probably for people of senior age, they may still have the impression that China-Somalia cooperation had made major progress in many areas concerning the STEM subject, even before this term was created, like the National Theatre in Mogadishu, the National Stadium, the Benadia Women and Children Hospital, the more than 1,000-kilometer long highway, probably the very first in Somalia, linking Belatwain and Burao in the north. When the unfortunate civil conflict broke out in 1991, because of the close cooperation between our two countries, China at the time had to evacuate hundreds of Chinese doctors, nurses, technicians, engineers, teachers, agricultural experts from this country. But even in those unfortunate years, China-Somalia relationship has continued to move forward. We continue to provide humanitarian assistance to this country, and we continue to provide scholarships to aspiring Somali students. As we talk about STEM, I would say that STEM is really very important to the development of a country. Back in China, we used to have debate about which discipline is more important, liberal arts or science subjects. Because we know when China had the first modern science revolution back in 1919, more than 100 years ago, at the time, the slogan for the students who took to the streets was the promotion of two misters. One is Mr. Science, the other is Mr. Democracy. And people sometimes were also debating that which students are patriotic. The students who have come back to the country to build their country, or the students who choose to stay abroad. These are questions asked not only in China, not only in Somalia, probably in many other parts of the world. And I think it is only normal people may have different opinions at the different times. For example, before 1949, before the founding of the People's Republic of China, which concluded the chaotic stage of China's civil wars, internally displaced people, refugees, humanitarian dependence on external parties, China was in a total mess. Even STEM students, if they chose to come back, I don't think they would have any conditions to pursue either their study or contribute to their country's development. But as soon as peace and stability was restored in China in 1949, then there was a huge wave of students, Chinese students studying abroad, staying overseas abroad, giving up, I would say, remunerations, dozens or even hundreds of times more in overseas posts, and chose to come back to China and join the people to build the country. Hence the great development of STEM and many other areas in the country. In 1949, China was also a big country, I would say, with a population of about 400 million. Now we have 1.4 billion. But at the time, for 400 million people, Chairman Mao also once said, we seem to be a big country. We grow a lot of food, rice, wheat. We also make wood furnitures. We make handcrafts as well. But we are not that great in another dimension. For example, at the time in China, we could not produce a single nail. And we could not produce a single car. We did produce iron and steel, but the total output of China's iron and steel was about 1/100th of that of the United States at the time. But today, China is the biggest iron and steel maker in the world. Its total output is equivalent of the next 10 major countries in the world. And today, China is also the #1 car maker in the world, far exceeding that of Japan and Germany. We are also the top mobile phone maker in the world. We are leading the world in 5G deployment, not about research, but deployment. We have already deployed millions of 5G base stations nationwide. So these are the achievements we have achieved. But all these achievements would not have been possible but for the value we have attached to STEM education. Thanks to liberal arts and Mr. Democracy, we got our independence and a new nation again. But then thanks to STEM, we got the huge development in many other areas as well. So I would say both areas and both disciplines are very important to a country's independence and the development. And I would respect the aspirations of young students who like to study abroad for more knowledge and expertise and gain more experience in many fields that may not even exist in a local condition. That's good. People would like to learn and would like to improve themselves. We need to respect that aspiration and curiosity. And at the same time, we also need to create the necessary conditions to attract them back. And that's the answer of China. For example, in China, because of the Cold War, so after the founding of the People's Republic of China, Chinese students could only go to the former Soviet Union and Eastern European countries to study. But then, in 1978, when we opened our doors and also established the diplomatic ties with the United States of America, we also began to send students to Western countries as well. At the time, I think throughout the whole 1970s and 80s, even in the early 1990s, for every 3 students we send abroad, only 1 would come back. That's the reality. We are not distressed. We were not frustrated. We were delighted. 1/3 of the students were coming back. So that depends on how you see the issue, whether it's glass half full or glass half empty, right? And now, with about 40 years of reform and opening up, and China being the 2nd largest GDP economy in the world, and also the 2nd largest R&D power in the world, we certainly have conditions as good as any other country in the world, and sometimes even better, for study, for education, for R&D. So now, the figures I have shows that about more than 2/3 of the students are coming back nowadays. So we need to pursue STEM education and STEM dissemination, I think, with an open mind and with an open perspective. That's very important. And nowadays, China also has a quite substantial higher education and higher education institutions and resources available. Throughout China, there are more than 3,000 colleges and universities. And the total number of students, including undergraduates, master degree pursuers, and doctorate degree pursuers, the total number is more than 35 million. So this year, we have a good news and bad news at the same time. The good news, this year we are going to have about 10 million college students graduating from the campus. The bad news, in a sense, is that the governments and the markets and the companies need to create necessary and abundant jobs for them. Which means that the number no longer counts that much, but the quality counts even more. That's also essential to STEM education, I would say. And I think I would also like to say that over the years, as I said before, China has been providing full government scholarships to aspiring Somali students. It was a surprise to me even, when I first came to this country to take my office, that every year now, more than 200 full Chinese government scholarships are given to aspiring Somali students. That was a surprise to me, because in that sense, just over the past few years, more than 1,000 Somali students have studied in China. And also it's proven that we can see in the Chinese local news, in many of the news stories, we can find the signs of Somali students in many parts, different parts of China. They were even joining their Chinese students together starting from year 2000 to fight the COVID-19 together in Wuhan and in Beijing, in Shanghai, in many other parts of the world. So I think China and Somalia are very good friends and partners. I also take a look before I come here to see that what are the subjects that the Somali students are studying in China. And I find that 80% of them have chosen to study STEM subjects. So I know that in many of the hospitals, not only in the Banadia hospital, but also many other hospitals in Mogadishu and elsewhere, in many of the telecommunication companies here, there are many Somali young people who graduated from Chinese universities and colleges. And I'm also proud of them. And I know that China has made huge development in all these areas. One particular area is infrastructure development, because we are involved not only in the infrastructure development back in China, but also we are a huge player in the infrastructure development worldwide, and particularly in Africa. That's true. That's why I'm proud that not only I myself come to the site physically to be present in STEM together with all of you. And this time we have also invited a major Chinese infrastructure company here to Mogadishu, that is CCECC. Welcome to STEM Summit. This company is a major player in the African, Latin American, Asian infrastructure market. And probably one of the projects you may have heard, that is the railway linking Addis Ababa and Djibouti, about a 750-kilometer long railway. That was built starting from 2016, and it was commissioned in about 2018. So when we talk about the China infrastructure development and the science and technological development, people are impressed not only by the great improvement and the development, but also by the great efficiency China and Chinese companies have shown in this process. Because I understand if this project were given to any other party, not from China, it would take at least 4, 5, or 6 or 7 years. So that's what we call the China speed. And we are proud of it. At the height of the construction of the railway, more than 20,000 workers were employed. Most of them were Ethiopians. And now the railway is already in operation. There are about more than 3,500 workers working for the railway company, operating the railway and the trains, and only about 400 are from China. The rest from Ethiopia and Djibouti. And many of them are actually in the managerial posts and high-skill technical posts. So I think we also have a report last year, because last year marks the 21st anniversary of the start of the FOCAC, Forum on China-Africa Cooperation, in 2000. Over the past more than 20 years, China and Chinese companies have helped Africa either build or upgrade about a 10,000-kilometer long railway on the African continent. And China has also newly built over 100,000-kilometer long highway for Africa. And we have also built, I think, about nearly 100 new ports for Africa. And we have created about 4.4 million new jobs in Africa. So that's what we have been doing on this continent. But as I always say to my colleagues, either from other countries or in Somalia, that China is a country that has a very deep farming culture and farming tradition. As I know that Somalia has a very profound culture of camels. We are farmers. We used to be farmers for thousands of years. For farmers, we do things, but we talk very little. So many of the things we are doing, people have no knowledge of. That's why I think I need to be here and also tell you the truth and show you the picture of what we have been doing here. As we talk about STEM, so probably, I think you may have also taken note of the table just on the right side of me. Yeah. There are a bunch of funny and probably interesting items or stuff, but not everyone is familiar with them. Not even I myself may be familiar with them until a few years back. That's why all these are from China, I would say. Yeah. All these models are from China. And the good news is that we just got them in yesterday, just in time for the STEM Summit. The distance between China and Somalia, I think approximately is about 10,000 kilometers. Not near. If you get on a plane, and if there is a direct flight, it will take more than 10 hours of flight. Yeah. But you know, we now live in a globalized world. So for all these stuff to travel all the way from China first to Kenya, that takes less than 1 day down a plane. Yeah. But you see, but it takes another 6 or 7 day, 1 week journey to travel from Kenya to Somalia. So you can see that probably the most difficult part is not the challenge itself. It's not the long distance you have to travel, but probably the last mile is the most difficult one. So that is how I feel. Yeah. Don't be intimidated by the size or the magnitude of the challenge you face. Just start doing the little things that will help deliver. So that's my sense. And for this, I would say that it's not only for the STEM Summit, but also we have an upcoming event that I'm very proud to share with you today here. That is the talk with the Taikonauts events. That for the first time, African young people will have an opportunity to talk and ask questions to the Chinese astronauts now circling around the Earth's orbit, 400 kilometers above us. It's scheduled for early September. So all this stuff will also be exhibited by then. Although we know that it's going to be the first for China and Africa to have this event, Africa has 54 countries and regions. And I'm very proud that given our very special relationship, that only 8 venues have been chosen to host this event, and Somalia is on the list. All the distinguished guests attending the event today, I think you will be most welcome in early September to that event as well. So please stay in touch with the organizer of this event. And if I may, I would like to please allow me 1 more minute for a short video about the launch of the space station of China. Yeah, please.
Lift off. Almost 2 Shenchao 14 spacecraft. The Tycoon nozzle seems very. And now we're seeing is the rocket still leaving the Earth, heading to China space station.
And more announcements from the ground control center.
So the pitch over is already accomplished. It changes the direction from a vertical direction to the east.
Yeah, we're seeing from this the camera view that has been set up on the side of the rocket, which is getting higher and higher. It's a beautiful, beautiful rocket. And today's weather is terrific.
Yeah, thank you. And that's what we call the launch of the Long March 2 rocket. We also had one of the models here. If you are interested, you can take a further look at the models. And that was launched actually back in June this year. And on that rocket, in the spaceship it sent to the orbit, there are 3 Chinese astronauts, 2 gentlemen and 1 lady. So these 3 Chinese astronauts will be talking and answering questions with the African teenagers in early September. And they will stay in the orbit for 6 months. Yeah. And before they went to space, last time on the previous travel of another crew, and one of the crew, Mr. Tang Hongbo, a Chinese astronaut, also shot a very beautiful picture of Somalia from space. Yes. So I think China and Somalia are very closely related. And we all know that sometimes when people debate about the liberal arts and STEM, it also has another footnote. The STEM seems to be more difficult on most of the occasions. I would admit that I'm from a background of liberal arts. But I would admit that really those who have an interest and the determination to study STEM subjects are really very hardworking students and young people. And they deserve our respect. And so I think that STEM is very important, and we also know that all the difficult things, once achieved, would give people a greater sense of fulfillment and belongingness sometimes also. And certainly this is true with STEM subjects. As I said, that the STEM plays an important role not only in national development, and I think it is also true in international relations as well. Because we all know full well that no country can claim to have the best talent in each and every area and the best sector and institute in each and every discipline. It's important that we join hands to make science a subject that will benefit all of us, with the contribution from all of us. That's why before I conclude, I would like to say a few words about the current situation, if I may. That I understand that at the opening ceremony, that the American ambassador, Ambassador Andrew, was here. And I'm here today for the closing. And I think for scheduling reasons, I was not able to attend the opening together with him. But to be honest with you, Ambassador Andrew and I have very good working relationship and personal friendships. given the latest situation in some particular quarters, there have been some debates about which friend Somalia should choose. And my answer is just like which subject to choose. Science and democracy are all we need, not one of the two. China, the United States, the European Union, Ethiopia, Egypt, Kenya, the more friends Somalia has, the better for Somalia. So I really wish the STEM Summit a success, and I really think that when it comes to STEM, it should become an area where people and nations could be united rather than divided. Thank you.